Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. Today will be our last meeting for quite a few months, and we are in a marvelous canto.
Yes.
The Book of Birth and Quest, Canto 3, The Call to the Quest. Actually, it's the Quest, Canto 4, page 382.
And
where did you have us ending?
so, ending was at the end. Infinites behest to end. It's somewhere down the middle. And as I said, in this canto, we are seeing all the different paths. What are the ways in which quest takes form in human consciousness? So we read about king sages, the warriors who were sages, like King Janak and the whole lineage of these great yogis. Ashupati himself was a king sage. If you go back to the history, he was a king who was governing a kingdom, was a warrior, and there was a kind of knowledge which only king sages could have. It is also there in the Upanishads. The hermits could not have that knowledge because king sages had struggled with the world and its forces. Then there were hermits, world naked hermits. And then we have a description of the seers. Then there were people who had abandoned their houses, speech, motion, and desire, and they were roaming here and there. So we have the different paths humanity has taken till now, through which Savitri is passing to find out who is the right kind of soul ready for this path, this great adventure.
And we know that she had many suitors when she was in the palace. And
Savitri.
Some of them wanted her for themselves.
Yes.
Others got angry because they couldn't have her. I mean, she's been through all of that, and now her father has sent her on this extraordinary journey through time, as we said, and through cities and countries. And now we begin.
Wonderful spaces, nature
Yes,
spaces.
yes.
So now comes the descriptions of seers. Who are these seers? We read it from books, rishis. And if you read the description of rishis from Sri Aurobindo's writings, all our ideas will change. We have our idea of rishi, bearded man sitting in a corner. No. Rishis were very dynamic beings. But here comes description of a kind of rishis who had their ashramas in those deep sylvan peace spaces which was untouched by so-called civilized humanity. The seers attuned to the universal will. Universal will is a little different from divine will. Divine will expressing itself through the universal movement, the laws and process of universe is the universal will. So they knew the inner law of each thing. This is the dharma. They were attuned to the universal will. So they knew that, if you destroy nature, nature rebounds back. So this is a universal will. So they were tuned to that. They knew the secret law of each thing. And what was the result of that? Content in him who smiles behind earth's forms, abode, ungrieved by the insistent days. So they were staying in a state of eternal content. Upanishad describes this so beautifully. Stesham shantim shashvati netaresham. They were in a state of eternal peace, content in him. That is the source of contentment. And around them, about them like green trees girdling a hill, young grave disciples fashioned by their touch, trained to the simple act and conscious word, greatened within and grew to meet their heights. So just like there is a hill and there are trees all around, so around them there were young disciples who were being fashioned by these great rishis. And they were trained to what? The conscious word. They were becoming conscious. You see, word is a very interesting agency. In psychology, we focus on behavior. We should also focus on word. Because behind speech, there are all the forces which are operating. Conscious word and simple act. So this is what they were being trained, all the disciples around them. Far wandering seekers on the eternal's path, brought to these quiet founts their spirits' thirst, and spent the treasure of a silent hour, bathed in the purity of the mild gaze that, uninsistent, ruled them from its peace, and by its influence found the ways of calm. See, this is a very interesting how Sri Aurobindo uses words. Uninsistent. Look how he is using. Ruled. So rulers, there are two types of rulers. Rulers who insist. Sovereign monarchs. It has to be like what I am saying. The way I want. Why? Because I am the ruler. Things have to be the way I want them to be. But there is another kind of ruler. Uninsistent. But how he is ruling? By peace. You just can't refuse it. There is such an overpowering peace. See, Mother and Sri Aurobindo, it is known in their life that they never ordered people. And Nirodha recounts this little incident so beautifully, where he says in 12 Years with Sri Aurobindo, marvelous book, where once Sri Aurobindo had to post a letter, and he lifted his hand and says, I suppose this has to be posted or sent by mail. And Nirodha writes, 100 hungry hands would grab this opportunity. But the Lord would not say, you go and post it. Look at the difference. And Mother said he was a perfect gentleman. Once he is struggling with a fan, he doesn't know what to do with it, how to switch on or switch off. And Champaklalji notices and he says, I will do it. So Sri Aurobindo, like a child, is watching. And when Champaklalji is doing it and he does it, he says, oh, it is that simple. He could have easily said, Champaklal, switch off my fan. And that was their way. Mother and Sri Aurobindo never did this kind of thing that I am telling you, don't you know I am God, I am divine? No. This was the path of, that's why Mother says, I have seen only one person who is perfectly humble, and that is Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's humility. See, it is easy to be humble when you have nothing with you. But to be humble when you are sitting on a mountain top of all the siddhis you can imagine. Dilip Kumar went to a tantric siddh and he said, you have come to me, fool. You are already initiated by the Guru who is sitting on all the siddhis that one can ever imagine. He said, who? He said, who else but Sri Aurobindo? He says, how do you know? Are he has come, he told me so. But he never told me. He said, yes, that is how he is placed. Then he reveals why. So for him to be so humble that, you do it for me, this is something impossible. So we have this example that this is how they ruled with their peace. And these people who came there, they found the ways of calm. Look at it. Calm itself can deepen into something so beautiful. That's why peace is the foundation of yoga. Then the infants of the monarchy of the worlds, the heroic leaders of a coming time, king children nurtured in that spacious air, like lions gambling in sky and sun. You see Gurukul, where all these Rajkumar would go in that. And they are going to rule. Kuru clan, they are going to be the monarch. Yadukul, there were 3 great dynasties and many other small little dynasties. And these king children are coming in that place to learn their own. Received half consciously their godlike stamp. So the seers who were around, they just received that stamp. They were taught all the astra and shastras, but they also picked up spontaneously because of the presence of such masters and such gurus in that wonderful environment what they had to receive.
They are here with us now.
Yes.
And Mother said, she tells the story of the supramental ship. And I think most of you have read this. And it's an extraordinary thing where she sees the different colors and she sees transparency and she sees all these different beings. Some of them need a little more work and have to stay on the ship. Others can go onto the land. They are here with us now.
So this is, then he continues, formed in the type of the high thoughts they sang. See, there are types of humanity evolving in a certain way. And an ideal guru understands it. There is the Kshatriya type, there is the Brahminical type, there is the Vaishya type, there is the Shudra type. Even Sri Aurobindo described that these were not based on either your birth or caste or something the way we understand it. Nor was it just temperament the way we may use it. It was each soul's unique way of relating with the divine. Through matter, through physicality, through the vital, through strength and power, through intellect and thirst for knowledge. So they grew in that. They learned the wide magnificence of mood. So here you use the word mood in such an interesting way. See, we look at it only as, in our again limited way, this is good, this is bad. But they knew how to turn that energy into something very beautiful, something divine. See, even divine. How do you understand Shiva's Tandav and Kali's Wrath? So they knew how to turn these energies which are there in human beings towards their godlike type. So the wide magnificence of mood. Even in that state of calm, all these different, that makes us comrades of the cosmic urge. Cosmic urge. Look at a tsunami. Cosmic urge. And when you see it, you are awed, overawed. Look at a volcano bursting through. Of course, we think of very small, like small beings. Oh, so many people died. That's all we see. But when you look at it, it's magnificent at another level. It's nothing but Shiva Tandav. It's Kali which is rushing with her hair flowing to take you into her embrace. Are we afraid? Then we'll be crushed. And when we are ready for the embrace, then she carries us and helps us to grow. It actually had happened when there was a big cyclone here, not tsunami subsequently. And that day everything was closed and dining room, some workers had gone. So I was to come from Odisha. And I was told that don't come. People called me, said don't come because it's a bad, terrible cyclone is to come. The eye has to cross at this time. I said, I want to come then. I want to see what it is like. Nature in her moods, magnificent. And when you really look at it from that perspective, on the other hand, look at the calm sky or the blue sea when it is quiet. And cosmic urge, they are moved by a cosmic urge. And those urges manifest in us, in our ego, as something very small. Little anger, little wrath, but they can manifest in us as the demi-urges that shape this universe.
One time when we had the cyclone in 1972,
yes,
the big one that broke the branch off the service tree, I was in the Matra Mandir nursery and I found a tree, a mango tree, and I held on to it as the storm swirled around me, and there was such peace and such protection from that tree. It was a marvelous experience, just as you
beautiful. This cosmic urge also reminds me of Draupadi. See, normally people say, oh, she took revenge. No. Draupadi was born to destroy the violent ego of that time Kshatriyas. This became an occasion. Now look at Draupadi. She is Kali's avatar. And she says, I am not going to put my hairs until this whole thing is destroyed. Look at the cosmic urge of a Chanakya. Shikha nahi bandhunga. I am not going to braid my choti till the entire such kings are not brought down. These are cosmic urges. They may take the form which ordinarily we may think like, revengeful, and no. It is, they are acting under a much greater impulsion. No longer chained to their small separate selves. So to experience this cosmic urge, we have to come out of the ego's boundaries. Plastic and firm beneath the eternal hand, met nature with a bold and friendly clasp. This is what we were just talking about. And served in her the power that shapes her works. Then describes another kind. There are different kinds of seers. One sold to all and free from narrowing bonds. So there are others who are impartial and one sold to all. Large like a continent of warm sunshine, in wide equality's impartial joy, these sages breathed for God's delight in things. If you ask them, what is your mission? They would say, I am just breathing delight. And you sit near them and you feel so refreshed and rejuvenated. See, someone like Raman Maharishi, Sri Aurobindo came for something far too great, but those who gathered around, they felt such a joy. And it's not that he was teaching, he was not even telling them a way or something. If people asked him, he said, you inquire, who are you? Who am I? But in his company, they felt that kind of release inside, simply because that breathing God's delight, God's peace in things. So there have been, beings like that. Their very presence is a work. Assisting the slow entries of the gods, sowing in young minds immortal thoughts they lived, taught the great truth to which man's race must rise, or opened the gates of freedom to a few. So what were these seers doing? All these disciples, young grave disciples fashioned by their touch, they were sowing in them seeds. Look at it, not filling information and teaching them a theory is a finished product. When we do that, okay, I'll teach you the 6 systems of Vedanta, you have finished. You have killed all query. What should be done? Start with your inquiry. What is your query? What do you want to know? I want to know myself. Okay, discover. This is the way in the Upanishad. See, how does he go? He sows a seed in the mind of the Bhragu, son of Varuni. So what does he do? He says, okay, tell me what is reality. So he says, matter, annam brahmeti. So he says, okay, very good. Find more. So he reflects, says, pranam brahmeti. So it goes on till ultimately it discovers anandam brahmeti. It is ananda. So this is the method. Sowing in young minds thoughts. And these thoughts will blossom into great trees. This is the method of the seers. Yeah, please.
Imparting to our struggling world the light. They breathe like spirits from time's dull yoke released, comrades and vessels of the cosmic force, using a natural mastery like the sun's. Their speech, their silence was a help to earth. A magic happiness flowed from their touch. Oneness was sovereign in that sylvan peace. The wild beast joined in friendship with its prey, persuading the hatred and the strife to cease. The love that flows from the one mother's breast healed with their hearts the hard and wounded world.
So again the action is being revealed to us. What is the action of these seers? Imparting to our struggling world the light, they breathed like spirits from time's dull yoke released. Time's dull yoke, where our life is routine, mechanical, slowly moving at a very slow pace from the evolutionary point of view. We may be rushing outside. So, but these spirits were released from that. They could see the far or bring the far near to us. And suddenly there were revelations in those who were around them, using comrades and vessels of the cosmic force, using a natural mastery like the sun's. So, you ask them how, like the sun shines. If you ask sun, how are you making such a brilliant light and heat? They say, no, it's natural to me. There is no how to it. That's what I am. Sun will say, that's my very nature. It's natural to me. So, using a natural mastery like the sun's, their speech, their silence was a help to earth. So, whatever they spoke, and even when they were silent in their atmosphere, in their company, Sri Aurobindo sometimes in evening talks, he would say suddenly the talk will start like that. Puraniji would say, everybody is waiting for him to say something. But Sri Aurobindo won't start anything. So then somebody would initiate. So Sri Aurobindo would say in the beginning he would say, so you all want me to speak, but great truths can be transmitted in silence. Something like that. Then somebody will start speaking. And then Sri Aurobindo would give an answer, there would be question answers, and that's how. So their speech, but even in just bathing in this silence is so beautiful. So their speech, that's their silence, was a help to earth. A magic happiness flowed from their touch. Oneness was sovereign in that sylvan peace. The wild beast joined in friendship with its prey, persuading the hatred and the strife to cease. The love that flows from the one mother's breast healed with their hearts the hard and wounded world. So when people went there, in mother's life we see disciples who were fighting with each other, and when they would go to her, they will come back soothed. It's a different story that they, unlike beasts, human beings carry a grudge. They suffer from grudgitis. So after some time again, when they see that person again, it comes back. But again they would go and she would give, they would be soothed. And the interesting part is to each one in different ways. So we had, the story of, we all know Dilip Kumar Roy and Sahanadi, they came together. And then they went through a lot of problems and jealousies and wounded hearts and all that. Now when you see when Dilip Kumar writes a letter about the same incidents, what Sri Aurobindo writes to him is so different from when Sahanadi writes the letter, he would write to her. So different. To each one, he is helping them to grow. Not, oh, he did very wrong to you. This man, he deserves our wrath. Nothing. He is getting his own quota of upward light, which will help him to grow. And she is getting her own, receiving that love, which will help her heal her heart. So this is it's very interesting. Once I actually saw, just to compare, around the same time, when they were going through a, huge this thing, how Sri Aurobindo is, I was told about this by someone, but I said, let me also read the letters of that period. You see, they are so different, but then you understand, when you know the context, then you understand, why he is writing to Dilip Kumar Roy this, and why he is writing to her this. So,
but what Sri Aurobindo imparted to others, Mother did also to us.
Yes.
When we entered her room, we forgot who we were. We didn't know who we were any longer. And she would look at us and she would say, "Bon fete," in that huge voice. Such power and such love. It was
wonderful.
It changed your life in one moment.
Yes.
In one moment.
It's like a new birth.
Others escaped from the confines of thought to where mind motionless sleeps, waiting light's birth, and came back quivering with a nameless force, drunk with the wine of lightning in their cells, intuitive knowledge leaping into speech, seized, vibrant, kindling with the inspired word, hearing the subtle voice that clothes the heavens, carrying the splendor that has lit the suns. They sang infinity's names and deathless powers in meters that reflect the moving worlds. Sights, sound waves, breaking from the soul's great deeps.
So this is now the next category who have gone beyond thought, beyond the confines of mind. So here they are bringing in revelatory and intuitive knowledge. They have climbed higher levels of thought from there. They receive the revelations, inspirations, intuitions, which is carrying something of that light of the sun with it. Something of that joy that flows from the divine. Something of that ananda, that amrita, the wine, they are drunk with that. And they bring it like a patra with speech as a medium. So we'll just read these lines. Others escaped from the confines of thought, the laboring thought, to where mind motionless sleeps, waiting light's birth. and came back quivering with a nameless force, quivering with delight because they've been touched with that force that makes all things anew. Drunk with the wine of lightning in their cells, intuitive knowledge leaping into speech, seized, vibrant, kindling with the inspired word. This is the mantra. This whole description is how the mantra is born. So they rise to higher levels, and from there the light clothes itself through the brain or the heart in a certain kind of sound symbols, sound and word symbols, and is expressed. So it is spontaneously, the meter comes with it. It's not that you decide that I'm going to write in this meter. All authentic spiritual poetry is born like that. And that's how it is expressed. Hearing the subtle voice that clothes the heavens, naked heavens, they are clothed with this word, this vibration, this stir. Carrying the splendor that has lit the suns, they sang infinity's names and deathless powers in meters that reflect the moving worlds. Now comes a most beautiful description of this mantra. Sights, sound waves, breaking from the soul's great deeps. So that's why Sri Aurobindo writes in one of the aphorisms, the Vedas are sacred not because God spoke them the way we understand, because the soul saw the truth and expressed it. Yes. God speaks to everyone, He is, because the soul saw. So sights, sound waves, look at it. And they are coming from the soul, arising from the soul. That's how Vande Mataram. Sri Aurobindo said that Bankim Chandra was a rishi. It doesn't matter what other things he wrote or didn't write. The fact that he wrote Vande Mataram is enough to put him in the category of the rishi. How different from our understanding of a rishi? Because it was a mantra which came to him in a certain state. And he expressed it in Anand Bhatt. And that mantra had the power to revitalize a whole nation which lay fallen, believed that we are no good, we are fallen race. Suddenly Sri Aurobindo charged that mantra with his own voice, word, and that mantra led the path of freedom. So this is how these seers are. Some lost to the person and his strip of thought in a motionless ocean of impersonal power, sat mighty, visioned with the infinite's light. Or comrades of the everlasting will surveyed the plan of past and future time. They were like Trikal Drishti rishis. They were not speaking anything, they sat motionless, but they were seeing the future and no, this is not either or. Like Sri Aurobindo is a Trikal Drishti rishi, but he's also used the mantra and speech and silence and everything to express. It's a Trikal Drishti rishi. There's so much there in records of yoga, even in that poem, A Vision of Science, where he says, a century's progress was before my eyes. You must have seen all these things. That's why we are safe. Because the Lord has seen, the Divine Mother has done what needs to be done for each one of us and for this world. Yes. You want to read the last few lines? Then we can, Some winged like birds out of the cosmic sea, and vanished into a bright and featureless vast. Some, silent, watched the universal dance, or helped the world by world indifference. Some watched no more, merged in a lonely self, absorbed in the trance from which no soul returns. All the occult world lines forever closed, the chains of birth and person cast away. Some, uncompanioned, reached the ineffable. So all the different possibilities, paths, and their respective goals. Some winged like birds out of the cosmic sea. So they are going toward the transcendent, Paratpar. This is merging into Parbrahman. and vanished into a bright and featureless vast. Brahma Nirvan, if you want to put it. Some silent watched the universal dance, the witness self, the universal witness, the Sakshi, or help the world by world indifference. How do you help the world by world indifference? Very interesting. You see, it's like if you look at the whole thing like a hierarchy. So, somebody who is here dynamically active in the world suddenly comes there. So, what happens? There is a vacuum. Now, he may have reached a status where now he is indifferent to the world. But because there is a space, there is like a funneling effect, and all the beings are drawn towards that. So, even world indifference of these great seers is a help. It inspires mankind to reach those heights. Like the sky. Typical example is sky. Sky doesn't invite you. It's featureless. But because it is featureless, man wants to know what is there hidden inside. And wants to reach out to the stars and the galaxies and whatever is there. So this is the help they provide.
But the world indifference is also to me that they are not affected by anything
absolutely.
in the world, by any of the events, any of the hostility, the evil.
Yes.
They are far above it. But they still help the world.
Yes.
By that world indifference.
By that world indifference, they help the world to climb towards that height, towards which they have reached. Some watched, no more merged in a lonely self. Now this is where they go into the typical mukti that you enter into the jivatma, the lonely self, and you are out of creation. Absorbed in the trance from which no soul returns. This is what is known in tradition as Nirvikalp Samadhi. So Sri Aurobindo writes about it, Sri Ramakrishna also has written about it, Swami Vivekananda, that if you enter Nirvikalp Samadhi, now there is two kinds of trance. One is Savikalp. Savikalp is Samadhi where there are still thought formations. So it can pull you back to the fold. Nirvikalp is where even that is gone. So if you stay in that for a certain number of days, some say 21, some say 42, then you can't come back. And in that state, and Sri Aurobindo confirms it, in that state you may enter into a inner space where your breathing stops, your heartbeat stops. You may be cut into pieces, you won't experience anything, though you are alive. People may beat you, but you won't experience anything because your consciousness is entirely withdrawn away into that state of trance. And you may not return. That must have happened to yogis like Sharma who were beheaded. Some of them enter into that state. And they know how to enter. That's why when Guru Tegh Bahadur was being, his head was being cut, he didn't say, "Oh, I am so sorry, please," He entered into that state where there is only one, Akal Purush. That's it. You enter that state, then nothing really matters. Yet that sacrifice changes the whole course of Mughal history and Indian history. Absorbed in the trance from which no soul returns, all the occult world lines forever close. So not only our outer speech, action, thought, they bind us, but there are several occult lines of forces released during the course of our evolution. All of that have to be closed, cut, annulled. I mean, this is if you don't want to follow the evolutionary path of Krishna. But if you want to follow the evolution to its fullness, then it is Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo. But this is one kind of possibility of moksha where you cut off those bonds, the chains of birth and person cast away. Some uncompanioned reached the ineffable. So these are the lines of evolution through which mankind has followed the Supreme. And Savitri sees all these beings, all these paths. There is a prayer of the mother where she describes that, Lord, thou hast made me climb to the summit of all the realizations of the past. We talk about Sri Ramakrishna going to the summit through Hanuman sadhana and Islamic this thing, but people don't know this. She has mentioned passingly in her prayer. You have made me climb to the summit of all the realizations of the past. And then she would come down. Because this is not what she is here to do. These beings, great and mighty, are not here they cannot help the transformational yoga. So when Sri Aurobindo was asked, Sir, what a great mighty guru you are, but what kind of disciples you have? I wish you had great disciples like Swami Vivekananda. Sri Aurobindo says, as to the disciples, I agree. And then he goes on to say, he says that, but it is very doubtful if a Vivekananda would agree to undertake this yoga,
Yes.
and if he undertook it, whether the ordinary humanity will not begin to show up. Because in this yoga, nothing can remain hidden. Outside, you put a lid, yogi on the whirlpool, and you have a sattvic rectitude in nature to escape. That's all is required. But here there is a thorough working. The subconscious is dug up, the inconscient, and along with that, Sri Aurobindo says, each person who takes up this yoga becomes a representative of that possibility and the difficulty in creation. So he says that each one of us who takes up this yoga does the work for 50 other persons. She gives actually this example. So it's not just your difficulty. Even after you think you have conquered your difficulty, it will come again and again till finally there is a clearing, which is very different than what, the traditional yoga where you are not bothered about it. You just have realized the Brahman and that's it. So that famous story with which we can end.
I'd just like to read maybe 20 lines because this is so close to my heart to share with you as I leave. It's after the break.
Yes.
As floats a sunbeam through a shady place, the golden virgin in her carven car came gliding among meditation's seats, often in twilight, mid returning troops of cattle, thickening with their dust the shades. When the loud day had slipped below the verge, arriving in a peaceful hermit grove, she rested, drawing round her like a cloak its spirit of patient muse and potent prayer. Or near to a lion river's tawny mane, and trees that worshipped on a praying shore, a domed and templed air's serene response beckoned to her hurrying wheels. A domed and templed air's serene repose beckoned to her hurrying wheels to stay their speed. In the solemnity of a space that seemed a mind, remembering ancient silences, where to the heart great bygone voices called, and the large liberty of brooding seers had left the long impress of their soul's scene. Awake in candid dawn or darkness mooned, to the still touch inclined the daughter of flame, drank in hushed splendor between tranquil lids, and felt the kinship of eternal calm.
This is so beautiful. We will read this again when we meet.
Yes, when we
After
meet
the
next
break.
time.